It's been a couple
It's
weeks
been
now,
a
right?
while. Yeah, it's been a while. Busy weekend, busy weeks. I mean,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
recently Dan had something special happen in his life, and we were busy with that. So if you want to talk about that a little bit, Dan, before we get
Yeah.
started.
So I just recently got married. After
Yeah.
8 years of relationship, I finally fucking tied the knot, and yeah, all the guys were together. We got all the boys back together. It was really fucking awesome, to be honest, to see everybody back together.
Oh
And
yeah, it
that's
was
really why we've been on a bit of like a 2 week hiatus. But
yeah.
we've got lots of shit going on. I mean, it was your boy's birthday too this past weekend.
Yeah, the wedding was very beautiful, and then the weekend after was we celebrated my boys' birthday. So we had their birthday party. Their birthday is actually this Wednesday, but we had the birthday party prior. But yeah, it was busy weeks for both of us. But we're here now, and it's special for both of us right now because it's the start of season two,
Yeah.
episode one. And today, Dan, what are we talking about?
Well, we're going back to one of our specialties today, and one that I think hits uh, well, what we think our fan base is pretty good, and that is we're talking wrestling and specifically WWE, WWF. We're talking our 10 favorite wrestlers to wrestle for WWE, WWF. So I think we're kind of looking more at the criteria of like their work within that company mostly, right? Like I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of guys that have come through WWE, WWF where their prime work is either in WCW or the territories or ECW or something like that. We're not so much looking at their work outside of it, more so just their work with the big promotion. Do you think this list would be a lot different than if we were talking about your 10 favorite wrestlers of all time? Or do you think it's kind of similar?
It'd be totally different.
Yeah.
For me, that is, I do have a lot of main eventers on mine. Like, I love a lot of mid card guys, and so do you. Coming up, so a lot of my favorite wrestlers that I grew up with are going to be on here. Not so much the best workers. It's
Yeah.
just the guys that I supported and loved growing up. But in other wrestling news, before we get started, big news just hit. Vince McMahon officially steps down as the majority owner of the WWE. So that is
Oh, is that
big,
right?
that is big news for wrestling fans who like the direction Triple H is going with. So there will be no more Vince McMahon influence on WWE. I guess with the following lawsuits that just came, against him again, with UFC and Endeavor taking over WWE, they probably said no, we can't have this, and Vince was probably forced to sell his share, and he is completely out. So that's big news.
Yeah, I mean, Vince is obviously a pioneer in this business, but we can both attest, and I think
Yeah,
most wrestling fans, like, you just kind of want to get him away from the product at this point. Like, he's very much so out of touch. I
yeah.
mean, there's times 20, 30 years ago where the guy was out of touch, and I mean, he's really lost it now. Like, you just don't want him anywhere near your wrestling product, I feel like.
Yeah, and also I just don't know. I know money talks, but I don't know how it took this long for them to find out. The backstage drama that WWE and a lot of those guys, a lot of lawsuits under the table and this stuff. But I guess it's a good thing that it's finally out. But anyways, let's get back to the more serious subject, the boys' top 10 favorite wrestlers. Again, this is not the top 10 wrestlers for everyone
No.
out there who's going to be like, what the fuck? Why do you have D'Lo Brown on your list or something like that?
D'Lo,
This,
yeah, you so badly want to include D'Lo on this. I can't wait to see where you force D'Lo in here.
this is our favorite WWE wrestlers, WWF wrestlers of all time. So who knows? Maybe Ahmed Johnson's going to be there.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
Ahmed.
You never know who's going to be on it. So let's start. I guess I will start it off with my number 10 um, favorite, one of my favorites. And I've always been a fan of this guy. I'm not too sure what it is about him. And I'm talking about Ken Shamrock. Comes in
Shamrock.
at my number 10 favorite. He's one
Nice.
of the most what if
Yes.
wrestlers, what if he continued? Where would he have been? What would he have become?
Yeah.
And I can only imagine if Shamrock's mechanics got better in the ring. Imagine him and Kurt Angle in that early 2000 era, like maybe 2001 ish. What a great match that would have been. But I always loved Ken Shamrock. He came in again as a baby face. I was first introduced to him WrestleMania 13, Brett versus Austin, my favorite match of all time. He was a special guest referee. He had some great matches with Vader, The Rock, especially his feud with The Rock. And then he got into the corporation, the heel Ken Shamrock. I just always loved his look. He looked like a bad motherfucker. Um,
Absolutely.
I loved his gloves, the shorts, the boots. Really, I loved the boots. He always had different colorways. Sometimes he'd wear green, red, blue is his classic. And I had to put him on my list because I looked at it as what guys that I play with the most with my wrestling toys and in the video games, and I would
Video
always
games.
choose Ken Shamrock. In my wrestling toy story modes, Ken Shamrock would always have a belt, either the Intercontinental or United States. So he's one of my favorite. He has a great move set too. Standing
Absolutely.
Hurricanrana, belly to belly. He's got some great moves. If he worked on his mechanics a little more and maybe his promo, that's where we say he's one of the what ifs in this business. So Ken Shamrock comes in at my number 10 uh, favorite WWE, WWF wrestler.
Yeah, I love that pick. I mean, I'm a big fan of Shamrock as well. It's all intensity with Shamrock, and as much as like I the whole what if aspect with Ken Shamrock, what if he stuck around? Sometimes I think maybe it's good that he took off because like you didn't see him do too much like wacky stuff during the Attitude Era. He was able to stay serious. I feel like if he would have stuck around long enough, they would have had him doing weird shit like they had most guys doing. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, but with him and the corporation, it was so badass with him and Boss Man. Fuck.
Oh yeah, yeah, and just he just gives that presence of being legit because you know he is legit having the MMA background and stuff. And
That's
it's funny
it.
because when I was a kid, I even knew that already. Like, oh, this guy's like these other guys are wrestlers. This guy's a legit badass. And back then, I don't even think I was familiar at all with like his UFC or anything like that. But it's like it was just kind of common knowledge that like Ken Shamrock would fuck you up.
And I already said this previously on some of the other episodes, in the music episode, his theme song for like a month straight, I would drive to work and just listen to it.
Yeah.
I would just listen to that for a month straight driving to work. So,
That is a
yeah,
great
man.
intro song.
Yeah, I love Ken Shamrock, man. What a badass he was, man. Some great rivalries, great moments he had, and man, it would have been just some of these guys we're going to name if timing was, a little bit different and the stars aligned, we would have had a lot of dream matches. So it's going to be interesting. So Dan, what is your number 10?
My number 10, we were talking about how we'd probably have a lot of main eventers on my list. This is probably
Scotty
the
too,
only. What's that?
you got Scotty too hot?
Oh God, Scotty Tuan. You know I like a good worm.
Yeah.
No, but we were saying how we probably have quite a few main eventers on our lists. Like this is actually the only guy I think on my list that's not like a legit bona fide main eventer. It's also I think the only guy on my list that's active still. And number 10, I have Gunther / Walter.
Oh, a new generation star
Yeah.
already.
Yeah,
Already?
so I really didn't think I'd have anybody from the last like 10 or even 15 years, but I'm a huge fan of his style. He's got a very old school style. The older I get, the more I enjoy that kind of style of wrestling, that hard impact, hard hitting,
Yeah.
realistic combat simulation kind of style wrestling. Honestly, that match of him and I think it's Ilya Dragunov, that NXT UK match on one of the pay-per-views, that's probably my favorite. That might be at this point my favorite WWE WWF match ever. Like I just fucking love that. Like you could put that on All Japan in the early 90s, it would fit in. You could put in a territory in the 80s and 70s, it would fit in. Like, it was just a great old school, like, high impact wrestling match. And I was totally sold on him then. And the fact that he's able to make his style work on the main roster in WWE is really impressive. Because I remember just thinking, like, I love this guy, but there's no way they're going to be able to use him properly once he gets to the main show. And
I think,
I think they've done a better job than I thought it.
Go ahead, keep finishing.
Yeah, like he had that match with Sheamus and stuff like that. I thought he would have to completely change who he was when he came up and started working with those guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has been that Vince McMahon issue that he's not, you know, around as much. So Triple H is really pushing those NXT guys. I feel bad for him because he tried bringing back Karrion Kross. He tried bringing back a bunch of these guys that he had made stars in NXT, and when they came up to the main roster, they just shit the bed with them. You know what I mean? But
the Karrion Kross one kills me because it looked like that dude was gonna be like the new Triple H or something. But when he got to the main roster, it just flat as fuck.
Yeah, well, they put a fucking helmet on him.
No, but even since after they let him go and they brought him back and he's had the hair and stuff like that, it just doesn't land the same as it was.
No, because they ruined him.
Yeah.
They ruined him. And then they tried to bring him back as a repackage, right? But Gunther's recent work with Chad Gable, that was another guy that I thought was lost in the breeze, and he's really turned his career around too. Gunther is going to be a great, great star. He's already a star, but I think they're going to give him a big match at WrestleMania that put him over, like to that high end. I would actually match him up with Brock Lesnar. If Brock's at that point where it's time for me to get back to the business and I'm done, that's the guy. You put him in with Gunther, WrestleMania, and you have Gunther go over Brock. And it's like I'm the new badass in town.
Yeah, Gunter's that guy, one of those guys. Like I feel like he's really valuable on a roster. Like because he can go over on anybody, and then if he puts somebody over, it means something. Like he's got kind of that same vibe as almost like a Lesnar or like a Samoa Joe or something like that.
Exactly. You know what? Let's do something fun, quick. Well, we don't want to go too long, but for each wrestler we'll give them a rating. We'll rate their in-ring work and their mic work. So out of 10, what do you give Gunther? And then I'll go back and do Shamrock after.
I love Gunter's in-ring work. I'll give Gunter I'll give him a fucking 9 in ring.
Yeah.
And mic work, I mean, he's nothing special, but I think he's able to make his character work. I'll give him a 6. I'll give him a 6.
I'm gonna give Shamrock's in-ring work by like a 5.9 to 6, and I'll give his mic work a 5. Not that he's great in the ring, Shamrock, but you see, if he really took it serious and worked on his mechanics, he would have been, in the higher echelon. But
he never was a wordsmith though. The only time he ever, he even made Tito look like he could talk. Like, like that feud, Tito came out like, oh my god, Tito's the better trash talker, and Tito is the most embarrassing public speaker ever.
I'll beat you to a living death.
The living death. And they have that dim lighting on too, that like they've never done at any other UFC press conference, and he's saying that line. Oh my god, so bad.
It's kind of cool to think though, Shamrock was the first TNA champion, world heavyweight champion. So that's
right. I forgot about that actually.
All right, so I guess I'll jump to number 9. I was struggling with this list for some reason because we're brainwashed to love main eventers, and I do love so many main eventers, but I love those mid-card guys. Those are my favorite guys. And I didn't want people to think the list is the top 10 wrestlers, so they'd be like, why the fuck, whatever, why don't you have Eddie? Why don't you have these guys? Yeah. But it's our favorite, and I was struggling between these two guys. So I want to give the one guy a shout out that I'm not putting on my list, and that's I wanted to bring the Boyz podcast to the doghouse because I'm talking about that. I'm talking about that that deal double G. I'm talking about Road Dogg Jesse James. He didn't make my list. I do love him, but at number 9, I'm putting in a guy that one of the best in ring workers. We just talked about Gunther. One of the best promos. He had the outfit, the charisma. Back in the 80s, the storylines. He was just much watched television, and I'm talking about the Macho Man, Randy
Oh,
Savage,
nice.
an absolutely beauty is Macho Man. Like, I know he was like really good at baseball, but he found his passion
Oh,
in professional wrestling. There's nothing else I can think of Macho Man doing. I know he tried to act and rap, but Macho, you were born to compete in that squared circle. Just like the charisma. We're talking about like Ric Flair's outfits, very colorful, can cut a crazy promo. Um, some of the greatest feuds and matches with
oh,
Ricky
matches.
Steamboat, the
Oh,
feud with Jake Roberts, the feud
oh
with even
man.
the Warrior, and then when the Mega Powers exploded, and we had what was it, WrestleMania 5, Hogan versus Savage. Um, just an amazing competitor, and he even went to WCW and did great things. So, man, Macho Man had to make me my list. And just think about this: if all the stars would aligned and everything went the way it was, how crazy would it have been that we could have actually had this match? We could have had the Mega Powers versus two-man Power Trip, Hogan
Oh my god.
and Macho Man versus Austin and Triple H. That there's in the world that everything aligned, we could have had that craziness when
That
WCW got bought over. Like, think about that. Imagine that shit.
would have been pretty wild with early 2000s bone saw
Yeah.
era Macho
Yeah.
Man, where he was
But
all jacked up and shit.
we could have had that. That would have
Oh my
been
god, that would have
insane.
been incredible. Biker Macho Man. I love that era of Macho Man too. But yeah, oh
Oh,
god, yeah.
yeah, the Macho Man.
I was just watching the first Spider-Man movie, so I'm just thinking of Bonesaw. Bonesaw is ready.
Even his rap album, even it so many
Yeah,
great feuds with Macho Man, and then he did commentary for a little bit. But one shame I always have on WWE, these guys that should be in the Hall of Fame a lot sooner, don't
yeah.
get in there, and we don't get to hear them speak. How
Macho Man's the
tragic
most
that.
bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer ever. Like, come on.
Yeah, I know there's something with him and Stephanie. No one's ever confirmed it, but for Macho, obviously in ring, I gotta give it, fuck. I don't
Oh,
wanna I don't wanna go with 10 because like but I'm gonna give him like a 9. I'll give him a 9 with Gunther, and his promo is probably a 9.5. He's
yeah.
just incredible. A much watched guy in the 80s in that era when steroids and cocaine were something special. And you just had these guys cutting unbelievable promos. These guys were jacked up. And Hogan was such a big star, but there was only few guys he could work with. Ping
Mhm.
Kong Bundy, these bigger than life characters, when Macho could work with everybody. And it was never a bad match. So
Yeah, you
Macho
didn't have
Man,
to apologize for Macho Man's matches.
yeah, no, and Macho Man, unbelievable talent. So he had to make my list.
Yeah, I was gonna say, other than like maybe like Bret Hart, has there ever been anybody in Macho Man's like level for just consistently putting on strong wrestling matches for like a period of like 10 years in WWE? Like, because I mean, there's obviously a lot of those. WWE is such a, it's all about the theatrics. Like, there's not that many guys that have been at that consistent of a level in ring performer for that long within the company. Like
Yeah,
he's right
crazy.
up there with anybody.
And then the moment when him and Elizabeth finally got back together, like that build up to Hogan and Macho at WrestleMania kind of remind me of The Rock and Stone Cold, that build up
Yeah,
when you had Deborah involved, and it was like, hey, you're my wife, but you're going with The Rock, and whatever, whatever. So
yeah,
I had sort of that build up, and then You know, obviously it was a Hogan type match, but Macho really carried, you know, the gist of the match to make it actually a professional wrestling match. But
Yeah,
can't say anything wrong about Macho Man. What a talent he was, man.
yeah, and I loved him, the pairing with him and Sherry too, when he was a heel. Like, oh,
Yeah, everything he did was just fantastic. So Macho Man comes in at number 9 of my favorite WWE, WWF wrestlers. So Dan, give me your number 9.
a fantastic pick. Going to be hard to top, but my number 9 is a guy initially I didn't think would be on my list, but I had to be very honest with myself and uh, the question like, what guys have I really enjoyed over a long period of time? Who have I enjoyed their work in WWE most? And this is a guy I've been watching since I was a kid, and I've been a big fan of since I was a little kid. And that is the five-time world heavyweight champion Booker T.
That's it. Booker's a great pick. I also thought about Booker T on my list. I thought about a lot of other guys. Yeah, one of those guys I followed, you know, in the early stages of his WWE career. Very happy to see him come over. And again, I know you're probably going to point it out. Very disappointed that he didn't win
Yeah,
against Triple H. That was one of those times when it's like, you should have done that. But WWE has this thing when they go, hey, you should probably win the match, but we're going to squash you. And then later down the road, we're going to give you a title match. It's like a weird, I don't know why they do that.
yeah.
But
Well, and the Booker T one left an even more sour taste in people's mouths because one, it was during Triple H's reign of terror where he wasn't putting fucking anybody over. It was clearly Booker's time to get put over. Like it would have put him at a much higher level and it would have really changed the trajectory of his career in WWE. I think he really did get to that point of legitimizing himself as a more main event talent, but I think it took a lot longer. Like it took almost into that King Booker phase to do it. But
yeah,
then also the strange addition of the race angle into their feud made it even
yeah,
more uncomfortable to not put him over. I remember even as a kid thinking like seeing the angle on TV and be like, well, now you know Booker's got to win because like how can they run this angle and then have fucking Triple H go over? But they fucking
yeah.
did. They fucking did. The racist guy wins. Like, how did they
Yeah.
book that angle like that?
It's true. We damn well know it was Triple H.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. With his Triple H and the Golden Shovel. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, not to get off the topic of Booker T and talk about how much we despise Triple H occasionally, but yeah, Booker T was just an incredible worker. He had that just personality just came off the screen. One
yeah,
of the biggest aspects of WWE is the fucking entrance, especially when you're a young kid watching.
yeah,
He had that "Can you dig it, sucker?" The fire, all the
yeah,
fucking moves and shit. The spin-a-rooney, he just made everything look cool. The guy's just staring at his hand. That's something I've seen crazy people on the street do, but Booker T makes it look so fucking cool. Like, just a great character. Yeah, like I said, pops off the screen. And his in-ring work, it's strong, and he has a style of his own. Nobody
yeah.
worked like Booker T. The
No,
guy's legs were so fucking long. It was like, he was almost like he was giving you a clothesline with his fucking leg when he'd come off the rope. Like he just worked a very different style. He had a different look. He was always had that like light on his toes kind of movement in the ring. And I'm just a
yeah,
big fan of Booker T, and I appreciate him more and more as time goes on.
yeah. King. Oh,
Booker.
no,
Booker.
no, Booker T's a great pick, man. So, what are you going for Booker T's in-ring work and promo ability if you're gonna rank it?
Okay, so for Booker's in ring, I know Booker isn't a guy that is like a guaranteed deliver of a great match. I know there's a couple actually fairly infamous stinkers on television main events from Booker, but overall, I think he's a strong worker. I give Booker a good. I'll give him an 8. I'll give Booker a 7.5. I'll give his
That's
promos and his promo personality. I'll give that a 9.
Yeah. I was gonna say his in-ring is about a 7.5 too,
Yeah.
but yeah, his promo, he does cut pretty good promos and they're funny. His tag team with Goldust was amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't mention that earlier. Oh, Yeah, that's one of the highlights of our childhood. This is some of the best
That was
comedy
so
we ever
funny.
saw.
The one promo I can't get out of my head. The Star Wars one's good too, but like the one with him, The Rock, and Booker T and Golda. Why keep doing that? I have a cannon and it's loaded with ammunition. I'll be shocked if Goldust and fucking I don't want to say his name, it might be on your list, but I'll be shocked if they don't make your list because I know you love those Jets, man. But we'll see.
Yeah, you know
But
what? I'll tell you right now, I don't have Goldust didn't make it. Yeah, I would
but
have thought Goldust.
you have to have the person with the K. His name starts with a K. If you don't have this, you didn't do your list properly,
I
Lance.
don't. I don't. Okay, I know who you're talking about. We can just bring him up right now because he's not on my list. Chris is talking about Kamala.
Yes. You don't
Bro,
have him
I
on your
love
list?
Kamala, but I love Kamala on a level like I like Papa Shango. Like it's because like it's also comedy to me. Like Kamala was a better worker than Papa Shango. Like Kamala was a good worker for a big guy and stuff. And like Kamala's work with Undertaker and WWE pretty good and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely the comedy aspect I enjoy more about that is him and his handler Kim Chi and his weird, probably bordering on racist entrance music
Yeah, for sure.
and
But
just the fact that
anyway,
our friend Ryan's dad loves Kamala, and he told us that he would walk around going, smacking his stomach and making the Kamala sound. That match with George the Animal Steel, though, one of the
yeah,
greatest like WWE gimmick matches I've ever seen.
him and Savage also had a good feud.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I've ever watched him wrestle Savage.
No,
No,
I
I don't
remember the
think I've
match
ever
when he
seen
was biting the turnbuckle and shit. But anyways, from George the
those.
Animal Steel. Oh,
Oh, George
but
the Animal. I thought you were talking about Kamala and Macho Man.
no, I don't know. He probably worked Macho at some point.
Oh,
Probably
I'm
not
sure.
on fucking television. Okay,
No.
number 8 for me comes a guy I've been watching my entire childhood to a very underrated and I find he's very underrated and underappreciated wrestler. I think people only see him for his hardcore style, but he has given us some of the best promos in professional wrestling. And not only do you get one of him, you can get 3 of him if you're lucky. And I'm talking about Mick Foley, comes in at my number 8,
Oh.
a fantastic worker. I remember for 1 year for my birthday, my parents got me the Raw is War ring, and they're like, and I remember I was like, oh well, this is good, but I have no toys, and they got me 2 figures, and it was Mankind and the Undertaker, and man, did Mankind scare the shit out of me when I was a kid. He was doing interviews in boiler rooms and, janitor's closet. That's where he used to hang out all the time. And when he wrestled, he would, pull his hair on.
Squeal like a pig. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
God. The pig squeals.
he would have the scariest promos. Some of my favorite matches growing up was that feud with him and The Undertaker. I'm not talking about the Hell in the Cell yet. I'm just
No,
talking
no.
about the classic
Boiler room
in-ring
brawl.
matches, and then the boiler room brawl, and then the casket match.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable matches. Man, Mick Foley, and then we got Cactus Jack, which was one of my favorites, man. I love Cactus, and we got to see him bring that character. And then we even got Dude Love when Stone Cold needed a tag team partner.
Yes, the
Against
pig.
the Hart Foundation, Davey Boy Smith and Owen, and you know, out comes Dude Love. We finally got that character, and they won the titles. But man, Mick is just one of those guys that he's very appreciated by the true wrestling fans. We know how great Mick was for a big guy like that to not tire out in the ring and
No
to get
condition.
blown up. Mick had, great wrestling ability, amazing on the mic. Even after he was in his prime, he still put on great matches. The match with Randy Orton, what an
Yeah.
incredible match.
Oh
The
my
match with
God.
the match with Edge, incredible
Oh,
match. Even in TNA, he had some okay matches, but we're not talking about that. So, man, Mick Foley, number 8, love the guy. He's also a multi-time, author, New York Times bestseller. One of the best promos in the game. in-ring work, I'm gonna give Mick. I'm gonna give him a 7.8, and on the stick, the emotion he can bring out of you, the ferocity he brings, the storytelling ability. I'm gonna give Mick a high 9.6. Just
Yeah,
just an unbelievable character, and one of the additions to that Attitude Era that helped propel them to victory over WCW.
yeah. Another steal for them that WCW let just fucking walk away out of the company. And
Yep.
yeah. I would have. You could have even given him a 10, and I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have even blinked. He's one of the greatest minds in wrestling history, and fair to say, like he's like a wrestling genius, really. Like,
Yeah. It's amazing to me he can still walk. Like I don't
yeah,
like
no one
he
ever
could.
took no one
Yeah.
ever took bigger bumps than Mick Foley. Nobody that was a legit worker. Obviously, there's like a handful of fucking weirdos on the independents and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but no legitimate wrestler ever took worse bumps than Mick. Like,
Like this guy got thrown off the Hell in the Cell, and then got choke slammed through it, and then after the and then he got thumbtacks, and then after the match he still interferes in Austin and Kane.
yeah, that's the craziest shit. It's like that in that match, like people forget like how long that goes out after those two big
Yeah.
falls. Like he fucking works a full match after that. Like,
He climbed the Hell in a Cell with a dislocated shoulder,
yeah,
and then he got choke slammed through it.
like
I know. I think it was just one story when Flair used to say he was just a human pincushion and all this stuff. But I think when Flair actually got to work with him,
yeah.
he changed his mind and went, "Oh, yo, Mick's actually the real deal." So yeah, for number 8, Mick Foley, without a doubt, man.
Oh, and that reminds me when you brought the Rick one. You remember that classic line he has about Hogan when Hogan tried to chirp him, and I think Hogan ran on off the record and made some
Yeah,
remark about, and he's like, if Hulk Hogan worked with me, he'd sound like the whiny girl in a porno. Stop, slow down, not so hard.
it's true though. Mick would run Hogan from
Yeah,
left to right. Hogan is the bigger star without a doubt, but in ring work,
yeah.
not even close. But anyway, Dan, you're number 8.
My number eight. My number 8 is going to be a guy who is just as talented of a in-ring performer as Mick Foley, if not more, but not half the human being Mick Foley is. When it comes to WWE, there is a plethora of scumbags that have come through this company, and this guy is right at the top of the list of scumbags. Fortunately for him, he's one of the most talented wrestlers of all time. And I had to include this guy if I was going to be honest with myself, because at no point in my life have I not enjoyed his work. And at number 8, I have the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Excellent pick. I'm going to actually do this right now because I'll just switch it. It doesn't matter to me because I love them all. I have Sean at number 6. I'm just going to talk with him about you if that's fine.
Okay.
Good. So yeah, there was a time where I wasn't a wrestling fan and I went to my uncle's house and he was watching wrestling and Shawn Michaels was the guy that got me into professional wrestling. I remember as a little kid, I grew my hair out long and at, family functions, Christmas, whatever, when we went to people's house, they would be like, "Hey, Chris, you ever gonna cut your hair?" And my dad would be like, "No, do the Shawn Michaels, do the Shawn Michaels." And I would get down and I'd give that pose. Um,
Yeah.
Sean, unbelievable in the ring, man. It was just it was perfect for kids to have that, David versus Goliath. Sean worked with all those bigger guys, worked with Taker, he worked with Diesel, he worked with Sid, he worked with Mick, and he could just have an amazing match. And it was because he was able to sell so well and he had the ability what guys don't do now. And I know guys when Sean would be like, "Hey, you probably shouldn't do that all the time," and they would get kind of angry about it. But it's like Sean didn't do all those fancy things every time he went out to the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. God, that my first image of Shawn Michaels is that sell on the Irish whip to the turnbuckle where he does the flip.
Yeah,
Like that was his shit. I mean, a lot of guys do that now, but like, oh, that was great. And like you said, he didn't overdo shit like that. Everything meant something. And yeah, like even as I say this, I'm like remembering, I'm like, yeah, this guy, I remember like how many times do you remember him dropping down, getting the groin shot to the rope and stuff like
Yeah,
that? Like he was just a great, yeah, he's just incredible at selling. It made him a great baby face. It made him an awesome heel because you could get heat on him and still have him get his ass kicked, and it was satisfying. Have him slip
yeah,
out, not get his ass kicked, and be frustrating as fuck. Um, he could just do it all. The guy is just definitely one of the greatest performers in the history of wrestling, and the guy who all of his work is all in this company too.
yeah. And well, he did work outside of in the smaller
Yeah,
territories, but
yeah, but
um,
hardly really.
yeah,
like
but
I mean, they got the Rockers early in his career.
I I still remember the moment, and it like I some moments I use this word a lot sometimes, but ingrained. And this moment is ingrained in my fucking mind, and I can still picture the day I watched it on the television with my dad and WrestleMania 12. Shawn Michaels music hits and they point to the Raptors and he comes down on the oh my goodness, Shawn Michaels was unbelievable. And then when you get older, you learn that he's a dick or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that was hard for me to handle because like as a I like you got into wrestling, I think younger than me. I mean, I feel like all that stuff in the '90s, I went back to as I got older, as I got into wrestling in the early 2000s. But right when I got into it was when Shawn was making his return back, and he was just such like a pure baby face then, like and like the angles with Triple H and stuff, and
Mhm.
he'd
He could
always
still
come up
go
short. What's
when he
that?
came back after years of not wrestling. From '98, he didn't wrestle until what 2000,
Yeah, and
what
he
2002, I want to say.
yeah.
Is that when he came? And that match was good.
It was awesome. Yeah, like he might have had a bit of rust, but they handled it perfect by making it like the unsanctioned match, so he could
Yeah,
get away with not being as smooth as he always was. But then he just picks it right back up like he was never gone. I mean, arguably some of his best matches are well into the 2000s. Those matches like Taker and stuff like that.
yeah.
The Ric Flair retirement match is incredible. But I was gonna say like just like the drama of just wanting him to get that belt off Triple H as a kid during that Reign of
Yeah.
Terror. Like I remember having such fond memories of that first elimination chamber match where he's got
I was
those
just gonna
stupid
bring that
fucking
up. Yeah,
brown pants on. Yeah. And God, I remember as a kid watching Raw and him going over on Raw. It was like he went over clean for the belt on Raw. And I remember running downstairs to my brother, like, "Oh my God, HBK just won the belt on Raw, on Raw." And and my brother's like telling me, like, they're gonna reverse it, bro. There's gonna be a screw job.
yeah,
As
oh yeah.
I'm like, no, he dropped it clean, and then as I run back up the stairs, it's Eric Bischoff coming up and resetting the match or some shit like that. No, like that's
I
what I have. When I was most invested in babyface versus heel is a time period where he was one of the main baby faces. That's why I have such fond memories of him as a babyface.
I can say that elimination chamber match going into it, I wanted RVD to
Oh
win, but
yeah,
it didn't happen. But I was actually talking with my friend Ian at work about this moment, and we know how important JR and King were, but to that era, um, you can't get a superstar can get themselves over, but the announcers are the ones that put them in our minds constantly.
yeah.
And I just remember that Elimination Chamber. Triple H has him hooked for the pedigree. Michaels reverses it, backdrop, goes to the corner, sweet chin music, 1, 2, 3. And if that wasn't good enough, you have JR freaking out. Shawn Michaels, Shawn Michaels is the world's heavyweight champion. It's such a great moment. Quickly here, because I knew HBK was going to come up on both their lists. Mr. WrestleMania has gone 11 and I think he's 6-11 actually. So he's lost quite a few times at WrestleMania, or maybe it's the other way around. Who knows? I'm gonna throw you some names right now, just off the top of the dome. No explaining it. You're gonna play Dave. I love New Japan Melzer here, and I want you to give it what stars you think. And these are just his single matches at WrestleMania. WrestleMania 8 versus Tito Santana. What are you giving it out of 5?
Oh fuck! If I can remember off the top of my head, I don't know. Probably an 8.
No, out of 5. Come
Oh,
on,
out
you're
of 5.
doing the
Oh,
most
sorry,
with it.
right. 5 stars. 3.5.
Okay, Tatanka, WrestleMania 9. I'll give that like a 2 point something.
Yeah, I have no recollection of that. I can't. I'll have to pass that one. I have no recollection
Okay,
of that.
WrestleMania 10, the classic with Razor Ramon.
Oh, 4.
4, that ladder match? Okay. WrestleMania 11 with Diesel.
Oof. 3.
Yeah, I agree. WrestleMania 12, the Iron Man match with Bret Hart.
5.
WrestleMania 14, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not the greatest match. Those guys could have had a lot better match,
He was
but
banged
Sean's
up.
back
He was
is fun.
banged the fuck
Yeah.
up and filled up. 3.
WrestleMania 20, Benoit and Triple H.
It's not. It was a little disappointing too, I guess. 3.
WrestleMania 21, Kurt Angle.
Oh, 5. Fucking love that match.
WrestleMania 23 with Cena. That's actually not a bad match, too.
Yeah, that's a
Sean
good
carries
match.
that much.
That's a good match. I'll give it a 3.5 or 4. 3.5 maybe.
WrestleMania versus Ric Flair. I don't know what WrestleMania is.
I want to give it a 5, but I feel like it's maybe not on the level as those other two. 4.5, 4.5, maybe a 5.
And then I'll finish it up with Undertaker, WrestleMania 25 and 26.
5s.
Yeah. So I think that's enough about Shawn Michaels. In ring, we can't probably lie here. I'm going to give Shawn a 10.
Yeah.
In ring, he's unbelievable. And his promo ability is pretty good. I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I would pretty much have. I think I go with that. Very versatile on the mic, babyface or heel, in ring work. Second to maybe a couple people ever. Really like.
And again,
I
said this again. I'm going to say it a bunch of times today. If all the stars aligned, we would have had Shawn versus Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania.
Jesus, could you imagine?
Unfortunate circumstances on Eddie Guerrero. But man, we can only dream the magic that match would have been. So what am I at? Number 7 now? It's my turn. Is it not me?
You in number
No, I'm
7?
at number 6. I'm at number 6 now because I switched Shawn and my pick, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So number 6.
You should still keep your list where you have your guys ranked. Was number 6 what you had, Sean? Or
yeah.
so you said you're.
But I don't really care where they're ranked. I don't care, except the top whatever is whatever. Okay, so number 6 for me. Again, him and Sean can switch back and forth. We just brought him up, and one of the best.
Did you say you're 7 though? Did you say 7?
Yeah, that was Sean.
Okay, it's gonna be Sean.
Yeah. So one of the best in-ring performers, and also such a great character on the mic, the comedy relief he can bring, also so versatile, a guy that's given everything. And when we talk about everything, this man has given everything to this business. And I'm talking about Kurt motherfucking Angle.
Ooh, yes.
Just an unbelievable savage, unbelievable worker. Unbelievable, man. And like we talked about, we haven't brought him up yet. He's gonna be on the list. There's no doubting me and you. Just imagine if things aligned. We probably would have seen Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle in the early 2000s. If all the stars aligned, we would have seen that match. But man, Kurt Angle was so good. And it's crazy that he spent more time in TNA than he did in WWE. Not much more I can say about Kurt Angle. We all know how fucking good Kurt Angle is. It's crazy that Dave Meltzer, I believe, has never given Kurt a 5-star match.
Dave Meltzer doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
But hold on. I wrote down a few matches of Kurt Angle. Again, I'm gonna flip them to you. You tell me out of 5, and let's see if we can get Kurt Angle a 5-star match. Versus The Rock at No Way Out 2001, when The Rock won the title to face Stone Cold at WrestleMania.
It's not a 5, but it's a
No.
good match. It's fucking 3.54.
Okay, versus Austin at SummerSlam 01, when Kurt Angle was a white hot face.
Yeah, that's a great match, actually. I mean, the crowd is on fire in that match, too. I'll give that's like probably another 3.54. The other one probably shouldn't be a 3.54. It should probably be a 3.5.
Versus Benoit, Unforgiven 02 or WrestleMania 03. The WrestleMania one has to be a 5. I don't know how the fuck it's not a 5.
Those are
But
both great matches. Yeah. Yeah, they'd have to be, right? 4.5, 5.
okay, versus Brock Lesnar on SmackDown, the 60-minute Iron Man match. How is that not a 5?
That is a 5. Yeah, that's a 5.
Versus
God,
Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21.
that's crazy. That's one of the best WWE matches ever by far.
Versus Undertaker at No Way Out 06. That was an incredible fucking match. That has to be a 5. Even you can even put fucking versus Shane at the King of the Ring 01 a 4. Like
Yeah.
in-ring
The,
ability again. I'm gonna give Kurt the same. I'm gonna give him the same I gave Sean. Maybe a little bit better on the mic, Kurt, because he has that comedy relief thing. I'm a man, and I like to play with boys. Wait a minute.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I was gonna say about Kurt. Like obviously you can go on about his in-ring work all day. Like he's one of the best of his generation and a legit fucking badass. But yeah, the personality, he's one of those few guys where he can be a fucking goofball and then the next second you buy him as a serious badass. Like that's rare.
What's that? The rap battle with John Cena.
Oh
My
yeah.
name is Kurt Angle, and what the heck? I want a gold medal with a freaking broken neck.
Well, that is like an incredible feat. Like I mean, you're talking about a guy who in a different era would have probably like gone into MMA and probably been like a UFC champion. Like he was just a legit fucking badass. I feel terrible for the guy now because you just see him and like years to come are not going to be good on his body. His fucking neck is swollen up to the point where it's just fucking like it's just enormous. It protrudes right out of the back of his head and shit. Like
it's
I feel
crazy. He
terrible
talks
for him.
about on his recent podcast his drug addiction, the Percocets, and he was taking like over 100 a week, like more than 100 a week. Like I don't even know how he's alive, and he was still wrestling at the highest level in TNA. But Kurt Angle's a freak of nature.
I'm sure both of us have watched that what is it, the Hawk or whatever, his Perk Angle video.
Oh yeah.
Hawkamania's Perk Angle video.
Those are great though.
Yeah,
all
they
right.
are.
Dan, what is it? Number 6, right?
Well, no, for me it'll be number 7.
Yeah, give your number 7.
My number 7 is a guy I know will be on your list. I think he'll probably be top 3 in your list. I think again because maybe I got into wrestling a little bit later than you, but I didn't get to see as much of this guy's work, this guy's full-time work in his prime. I more so came as he moved to Hollywood, and that is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I have a number 7.
Great pick.
The total package is like obviously one of the greatest characters in wrestling ever, if not the best character. Like the guy understood who The Rock was, and he just could sell any fucking line. Some of his most classic lines coming from anybody else would land totally flat. He's able to take some goofy shit and turn it into he sounds so fucking cool, everything he says. And that's not to understate how good of an athlete he was. Obviously, he comes from that football background. He's got all that history in his bloodline of wrestling. It obviously came very naturally to him. He picked it up in a short period of time. Moves very smooth in the ring. Doesn't have as wide of a move set as some of the guys we've talked about today, but what he did great, and he could work with any main event talent, put on a great match, and there isn't anything he's ever done in wrestling that the audience was not invested in. Everybody, other than his earliest stages in WWF, where they're chanting "Die Rocky Die," but hey, they were still chanting something at him. Like
Yeah.
you're always invested in The Rock, no matter what he's doing, and it
Yeah,
was impossible to ignore him here. And I know
The
you're going
Rock.
to bring up that Hollywood Rock
Yeah,
phase.
that's one of my
That would have
favorite
been
Rock.
great.
But during that rise of The Rock, not late '98, I want to say, like around that Survivor Series, and then he turned heel. But when Austin got injured and he had to go get surgery again, and The Rock just took off,
Yeah,
and man, were those pops unbelievable. And then obviously The Rock took off Triple H, and that's where it started. Austin wasn't in the picture anymore. And then 2000 was the year of The Rock. You know what
yeah,
I mean? That WrestleMania was god awful. I don't know, like, fuck, I don't know what they were thinking about that main event. But then The
yeah.
Rock
Those rough
won
ones.
won it at Backlash. Stone Cold comes out. That place blew off the top, and now we had the two biggest faces the company has ever had at the same time, and it gives us my second favorite match of all time, WrestleMania 17, the greatest build-up promo of all
Yeah,
time. Man, did I
that
ever
Limp
love The
Bizkit.
Rock. I used to just watch Rock promos with my brother, and we would just sit there laughing so hard, man. A guy that didn't mind working with mid-card guys. You know, he helped the Hurricane out.
Yeah,
He worked with Billy Gunn. He did great stuff like we talked about earlier with Shamrock. You know, he did a lot of great things. He worked, Owen, like he worked a lot of great guys. Um, I've never heard a bad story about The Rock in the locker room. I can
no,
remember
no.
when he came back in, I want to say 011. I watched that return. I don't, Jesus,
I
probably
remember that, and it was
that,
long. It was like 45-minute promo, basically. Like,
and I would just close my eyes and just listen to the eruption when if you smell. Yeah, The Rock is definitely coming on my list. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Hollywood Rock.
yes, Hollywood.
Unbelievable. You know you have made it as a heel when your music hits and you walk out and it's just an eruption of booze. One of the greatest entrances, even if it's a heel entrance, No Way Out. I think he was facing Hogan, and man, he was legit hated, man. And what a sad day when he went to Hollywood. But yeah, man. Fuck, The Rock looked so cool with that tattoo as well when he got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Great.
and that Hollywood Roxy where he's got the tattoo, but he's still lean.
Yeah.
That entrance where you see the fucking helicopter come down
Yeah.
over Hollywood and stuff. And then what is
I
it? Let's see. It says like it's cooking or something like that.
yeah,
It goes with the music. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, so epic. So that's like goosebumps. That entrance.
yeah. Just The Rock gave us so much memories, man. And obviously, you said you got into it a little later, but just for me, he fell in a weird spot in that 2000 time. It was with that Triple H was on top, and it was kind of that
Yeah,
annoying Triple H. Triple H didn't make my list for that because you like him, and then when he's a heel, it's just like an annoying heel. It's like he's always cheating. I get it. I get it. That's
yeah,
how it's supposed to be, but it's like, dude, it's I can't watch it no more. Like you always
yeah. It becomes
cheat.
like go away heat.
Yeah, it's like fuck sakes. And then every time on SmackDown, he's on every promo. Every like 15 minutes has something to do with Triple H. But anyways, The Rock,
Promo.
yeah, The Rock, fantastic. Some of the funniest promos ever. Um, Man, we were so happy when The Rock came back, and we went to the movie theater to watch that WrestleMania, and we didn't think they were gonna put him over Cena, and then it happened, and fuck, once in a lifetime happened twice, and it shouldn't have, but man, man,
Yeah.
do I love The Rock. But what are you gonna give The Rock? Promo
Wow, The
and
Rock.
in-ring.
Rock promo's got to be a 10. I mean, so if we're talking WWE guys, I mean, and you're just talking promo, like he's at the top of the list for sure. So I give him a 10 promo. In ring work, Give him a 7.5.
Yeah, The Rock never took any serious bumps.
Yeah. You know what?
But
Maybe I give him, what did I give Booker? Did I give Booker 7.5?
I can't remember.
I think I did. So I have to give The Rock a 7 because I gotta give Booker a slight edge in the ring.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Okay, well, Dan, give us your number 6 then, so then I can start with my number 5.
Okay. My number 6 is my second most modern pick. It's a guy who I enjoyed greatly his work as a babyface and a heel in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and that is the best in the world, CM Punk.
Yeah, a lot of controversy with CM Punk right now, but all I'm gonna say about that is you have both parties making 3 million plus a year. It's a business at the end of the day. You guys should have worked with each other. That's money.
Uh,
You guys sold out London. Congratulations. But to me, how it wasn't headlined by CM Punk versus Kenny
yeah,
Omega, or even CM Punk and FTR versus the Elite, is fucking mind boggling. Matt Hardy was able to work with Edge after Edge stole his fucking girl.
yeah,
Hogan and Savage worked together. It's like you guys can you guys are making the most money in the fucking company. Shut the fuck up and get out there and work. But I know CM Punk is right on one hand, and I guess the Elite is right on one hand because you know what? That's the company they wanted, and they don't want this guy making changes, and they don't want it anything like WWE. They don't want anything like it WWE. But the problem is, it's a business, and your business needs to make money,
yeah,
and sometimes you have to fucking suck it up and play fight with somebody to make business work. But anyways, Dan, go ahead and talk about CM Punk, man. A guy I always loved in ECW when he was there. I like the
yeah.
stuff in ECW. He always used to get that little tiny pop, and then when he finally became the face, I think WWE screwed it up. I think you're probably
Oh,
going to bring it up
absolutely.
with Triple
Yeah,
H coming out of retirement, and then CM Punk should have headlined WrestleMania.
yeah. It's pretty embarrassing to be honest that he never did. Like you said, they dropped the ball. They tried to book him with fucking Nash and shit like that
Yeah,
during his peak of like what do you call the summer of punk or whatever. But I think the really thing that stands out with him is just like he came around and hit his prime as a main event talent at a period where they didn't have fucking anything else. Like it was
yeah,
a point where they just had Cena, and Cena had been on top for so long it was stale as hell. Most older wrestling fans, as much as they appreciate Cena's body of work now and stuff, they needed to see they wanted to see something else. They were tired of seeing the same old shit. Him working with fucking, and honestly, if you look at the rosters in those early
yeah.
2010s
Terrible.
before they start bringing up these guys from those early years of NXT, like there was nobody. There was nobody there to work with. You had a young Cody Rhodes might have been like just the next couple guys down from like CM Punk and Cena. Like there was not much. It was slim pickings. And the fact that they were able to fuck that up is insane. But that still, though, even with that, they still were able to capture all great moments. Obviously, that Money in the Bank match in Chicago, him and
Mhm.
John Cena, one of the best moments in modern WWE history. Um, how this guy's not like I just love how people talk about like Cena's career. They'll talk about like greatest rivalries and they'll mention guys like Edge and stuff like that. And I get it; they had lots of matches together. There was never any rivalry John Cena had that matched the emotion that he had with his rivalry with CM Punk. It was legit, not just John Cena versus CM Punk, but it was two different ideologies of wrestling versus each other. And yeah, I just wish they would have maybe ran the ball, give him the ball a little bit longer or sooner, not longer, but sooner, because his title reign was pretty long, pretty
Yeah,
drawn out, but it just he needed to get the ball sooner and he needed to get that WrestleMania main events. But yeah, just a great worker in a great promo. We didn't even mention the pipe bomb, like one of the best
yeah,
promos of the last 20 years.
exactly. And I want to say something what you said there about Cena. That was kind of the transition for me, looking at Cena's wrestling in ring. where he wasn't calling the match anymore. He was actually letting the guys that could work carry the match, because Punk carried a lot of those matches, and a lot of
Yeah.
those other matches with those NXT guys were really carried by those NXT guys, and that really changed Cena's wrestling. After that, he really started having great fucking
Yeah,
matches.
he did. He did.
It
I
wasn't
wonder
that,
how much that came from working with Punk too. Working with Punk,
yeah,
probably working with Brian too. But
yeah, but yeah, CM Punk should have main evented a WrestleMania. It was his time. You know, there's always controversy with CM Punk. Will we see him in the business again? Who knows? Who knows, right?
yeah,
You'll never know. You never say never to if it makes sense. But what do you give CM Punk on the mic and in the ring?
on the mic, I'll give him a 10. I mean, of modern guys, I mean, he gives the most believable, realistic promo I've seen in wrestling since like the territories. Like, you just buy it; it's real. It's
Yeah,
not a bunch of bullshit. He comes across. There's no character. He just comes across as himself. I'll give him a 10 promos. I'm a fan. I was always a big fan of his in-ring work in his prime. I thought it was a very nice amalgamation of independent style with WWE style. Not quite the same level as like some of his like I wouldn't put him on the same level as Daniel Bryan in the ring, but his
yeah,
promo made up for it. I'll give him I'll give him a 7 in the ring and a 10 in
yeah.
the promo.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Yeah. Yeah, oh God, his promos in AEW too. Like fuck. Yeah, just a great promo.
Yeah,
Incredible
I
promo.
just felt his AEW run in ring was. I think everyone was expecting prime 2010 to like 2013
How
ish
could
Punk,
you though, right?
but it was still good for what it was, who he worked with. But you never know. Maybe with working with actual workers, it might be better, right? So,
Yeah.
um, great pick. Punk had great moments in wrestling that we loved, man. I remember when we used to just talk about, what he was doing on television was must see.
Yeah.
I would have loved to seen Stone Cold versus Punk. Um, at one point, it was close. I heard
Yeah.
Punk say it was close, but somehow it just fell through. But
It
if
was like
again,
that was like around 2011 too. I mean, we saw Stone Cold come back against Owens. When was that? That was like and
that was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago
yeah,
now.
and physically it wasn't Austin. Like, let's be
Yeah,
honest. Like, he didn't move like the same and stuff. But 2011, that might have
yeah.
felt a lot more like seeing Austin than it did 2 years ago.
Like I
That would have
said,
been cool.
if all the stars had aligned, you never know, right?
Yeah,
But number five for me, again, is not a newer superstar. He's been in the business, probably around the same level as Punk, but he started in WWE. Um, Fuck, is he fantastic, man? And I remember watching this guy, in Evolution, and I was like, this kid
yeah,
has the look, and he was up. He had some high flying moves. He used to do some big spots, but that match with Foley, put me over the edge on this guy, and I'm talking about Randy Orton. My
absolutely
God,
amazing.
his promo ability when he first started was a little shaky. He's
Yeah,
unbelievable now. I remember watching him wrestle Daniel Bryan, and this was maybe 6 years ago. And he had just spread Daniel Bryan's fingers out and then put them on the mat and stomped it. And it looked so real. And I was like, you know what? Randy Orton is in my top three. Obviously, he falls at number five here, but man, heel Orton is great. Face Orton is great. At some point, I was stale of him. I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie, because it's the same thing: Cena versus Orton, what? And it gets a little stale. But I can't deny he is much CTV. Every time you're gonna get a good match out of Randy Orton, he looks he looks like a $1 million. He
yeah,
performs like $1 million. Man, Randy is unbelievable in ring. Again, I'm gonna I'm gonna put him up there with Sean in ring. Just so calculated, so smooth. This
yeah. That's why I'm saying
everything. That's the
so smooth.
difference. He is so smooth in the ring that everything just looks perfect. The intensity he can bring. as a a heel or a face is unbelievable. And I'm gonna give his promo. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. It's not the greatest promo in the world, but he gets his point across. But in ring, man, he is like a snake, man. He's just smooth and he slithers, man. The Viper comes in at number 5. Amazing talent, man. Amazing talent.
Yeah, his when I think of like offense guys with a offensive style of wrestling, his offense is just like you said, just so perfect, so smooth, so real looking, believable. He doesn't do anything too ridiculous, but all
Not
of his moves
anymore.
look so yeah, sure. But all of his moves look great, and they're all performed flawlessly. That was that spinning like power slam, or is that what
Yeah.
it is? Power. Yeah, I mean he's been
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
that forever, and that's always just looks so nice, so smooth.
His drop
Obviously,
kicks,
yeah,
his
drop
drop
kick
kicks are
always been so smooth.
fantastic.
Always got a great vertical on it, and one of the most iconic finishing moves. And I'm not
Yep.
talking about that weird thing that he did when he first came. Remember that his first finisher? How terrible that was.
The overdrive.
Yeah. Oh my god, what a terrible finisher. I feel like there's been a lot of guys that have had a move similar like that and then changed immediately. Like that was
Out of
terrible.
nowhere, the RKO can hit anywhere,
Yeah.
man. So,
Yeah.
Randy is fantastic. All
Yeah.
right, buddy, give me your number 5. I know you probably have Randy on your list somewhere. I would assume.
Surprisingly, I do not. He's a guy that
Oh,
felt weird leaving off, but especially because you mentioned like the Legend Killer. Man, when I was younger, I thought Legend Killer Randy Orton was like the coolest wrestler ever. But yeah, no, I actually
just
he was one of those
also
guys I was him
that
and Han were
moment,
10.
that moment when he RKO Stacy Keebler, man, that
Oh,
was cold.
did
That
he
was cold.
did he RKO Hogan's daughter too?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just Hogan on the car,
Right.
remember?
Yes, yeah. And he just makes out
And
with Hogan's daughter or something like that.
yeah, and she
Even
was
though
like, "What
Hogan's
happened,
daughter had a
Randy?"
face
He was
like
like, "I
a
don't
foot.
know. I just found him like that."
Right. Oh God.
Great talent.
Uh,
That pool of OVW guys, him,
oh
Randy
man.
Orton, Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin,
Yeah,
Renee
Benjamin.
Dupree, just
Yeah.
unbelievable talent in that pool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, Shelton Benjamin's the guy that is like they gave him a bit of a push, but he was the guy who's like, fuck, he like if he would have got his mic and character work together in ring, fuck, he was incredible too. He could do some
Yep,
wild shit.
that's it. All right, buddy. Number 5.
My number 5, I won't jump too deep into him because we've already talked about him on it. Talked about him as one of the greatest minds in wrestling history. My number 5 is Mick Foley, a guy who I only like more as time goes on. As I get older, I only appreciate
Yep.
more. The nicest guy in the history of wrestling. Can say he almost has nothing bad to say about anybody, Mick Foley. So how could I say anything bad about him?
I met Mick Foley too. I forgot to say that. I met Mick
Oh
Foley
yeah, I forgot that you met Mick Foley.
at Comic
What
Con.
Niagara Comic Con?
At Niagara Comic Con, him and Kevin Nash commented on my Austin 316 shirt when I went up to meet Nash.
Nice. Remember that story I told you about that guy I worked with that he was hitchhiking just outside of Toronto and he got
Hey,
picked up by Mick Foley?
that's crazy.
yeah,
Mick was like, "I'll pick you up, but you got to pay gas."
yeah, probably. Mick Foley's still driving from town to town, like holy shit. But yeah, so I won't dive too far into Mick Foley. I think I even already gave his work a ranking. But
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I gotta have Foley on there. So number 5, Mick Foley. What do we have for you?
Number
This is
four,
your number 5 for number 4. Okay.
yeah, number 4. Mick fell for number 8 for me, but number 4 is a guy we should jump into, but it's going to take so long for us to get through everything. Um, the Godfather of the locker room. I'm talking about the Undertaker.
Yeah.
My goodness, my goodness, my goodness, how good is the Undertaker? I always felt the Undertaker was that guy that was like, Taker, you're not going to be a main event guy. We're going to put you in the middle of the card, but anytime we need you, you're a main eventer. And the fans always looked at him as a main eventer, but he was always most times he was a mid carder. Let's be honest. Like a lot of times, Undertaker was in that mid card role, but
Yeah.
he was facing those other main eventers that were stuck in that limbo space. Um, Ministry of Darkness Undertaker, fantastic. Obviously, early '90s Undertaker. When he won the title from Psycho Sid, WrestleMania 13. But I know some people don't like it. I love Biker Undertaker. I like the American Badass, but I like the American Badass when he cut his hair and he used to come out, "You've done it now. You don't have made a big mistake."
Yeah, the
That's
dead man walking.
that
Big
match.
Evil. Is that Big
Yeah,
Evil?
Big
That era?
Evil. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
Big Evil.
favorite. I love Big Evil Undertaker. I was always pushing WWE. Like I would always pick, okay, I know Undertaker's coming back. Please be Big Evil. Please give me
Yeah,
that biker
you just want
motherfucker.
to hear that.
All the fans just wanted to see it one more time, but we finally got to see it with AJ Styles, but it was pretty much,
Yeah,
whatever at that point. But just an amazing, amazing worker. So many great matches. I'm not gonna really jump into the Undertaker so much because we could sit here and talk forever. We know how legendary Undertaker is. Um, Fuck man, when him and Kane, like, come on, the
yeah.
brotherhood, that whole
As a kid,
story.
as a
Oh
kid, that's the coolest fucking thing. Like
yeah,
these big, larger than life guys. I mean, as time has gone on, in a way, like I kind of hate in some facets what the Undertaker introduced to like wrestling because I can't. You know me. I've been bitching for years. Can we just ditch the supernatural shit in wrestling? It's
yeah,
fucking retarded. Sorry, I didn't mean to drop that hard R bomb, but yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous to think that these wrestlers have superpowers. This was the only guy it worked with, and I wish they just left it with him. But yeah, as a kid, like the Kane Undertaker thing, it's
yeah,
just so captivating. These big, huge, larger than life characters, these incredible theatrics and costumes and just so larger than life. You got Paul Bearer screaming like a fucking ghoul in the microphone too. Like it
yeah,
was
and
just that's what really caught my attention to wrestling. Before I ever watched wrestling, I was like captivated by the image of Taker and Kane and
yeah,
that whole rivalry.
and to take it from the 90s to the 2000s, his game only elevated. Some of his
Oh yeah,
matches we brought up with Kurt Angle, Shawn,
yeah. Shawn Michaels,
Brock Lesnar, his
yeah,
matches with Randy Orton, Triple H, even
yeah. The Triple H
2001,
one.
even 2001 Stone Cold is fucking
Mm-hmm.
awesome. His matches with The Rock, just
Bret Hart.
unbelievable. His match with Brock Lesnar, the Hell in the Cell. That's the last thing I'm going to say about Taker. I want to give Brock a plug quick when Brock reversed it, the tombstone, and then flipped him up for the F5, I was shitting my pants. I want to take her to win so bad, but I had never seen a counter like that to the
Yes,
fucking
yeah.
unbelievable. I think Brock, I understand why he was the right guy to break the streak. I think it probably could have went to somebody else to help him build him up a little bit, but
Legend Killer Orton would have been sick.
yeah, but
I know we wanted to see that.
yeah, we did, yeah. But Undertaker in ring, for a guy that size to jump over the top rope to the outside, that image of him jumping on a Vader and Kane, flames flying up in that Inferno match, in
But the one
ring,
where he jumps
yeah,
out against Shawn, lands on his fucking head.
yeah. But I'm gonna give his in ring again. I'm gonna give it around that Shawn range, that 9.7, almost a
Yeah,
10. Unbelievable, and his promos. It's
tough,
not the
right?
best
That's a tough
promo.
one.
It's kind of like a straightforward promo. Like it's never like anything crazy, but I'm gonna give him a 7 point. I'm gonna give him a 7.2 for his promos for Taker.
Yeah. The best part of I feel about his talking is the fact that he limited himself enough to protect his gimmick. Like he didn't need to
Yeah,
talk too much. And if he probably would have suffered if he talked any more than he did. So yeah, I feel like that's fair rating. I would agree. And work wise, yeah, I would agree as well. Like there's probably never been a big guy that's worked better than the Undertaker, at least definitely not in this promotion.
yeah. I remember also um, being with our wrestling toy talk. That was all me and you did. And I remember years before when they were ever talking, when they were started talking about, oh, yo, let's have a Taker Cena match at WrestleMania. I had one of the greatest WrestleMania toy matches of
I
all time
remember
in my
this.
mind. In my mind, I had it, and I had this one spot that I was like, they need to do this if these guys ever wrestle at WrestleMania. And it was, I took Undertaker went for the fucking snake eyes, blew him off the top rope. He's coming for the big boot. Cena reverse it. F you.
5.
Cover 1, 2, and then we have the near
2.
fall kick out. But that was one of those spots. And when I did that spot, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. But anyways, Dan, hit me with your number 4.
My number 4, like my number 5, another guy we've already mentioned already. Sorry, I got lost there. We already mentioned him earlier. I can't remember where he was for you. My number 4 is Kurt Angle, like Foley, another guy I only appreciate more over time. Love his realistic, high impact style. Guy that could wrestle in any era and could work any gimmick on the mic as well.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Kurt
Unbelievable.
Angle, number 4.
So you want me to just jump to number 3, or you want to say more on Kurt Angle?
Actually, here, I'll give you my number 3 quick too, because he's already been mentioned already. My number 3 was the guy we just talked about before that. My number 3 was The Undertaker.
Anything else you want to say on Taker?
Not really, other than just like kind of like, yeah, he really solidified his legacy in WWE. He was, even in the 90s, he was already kind of like looked at as like the veteran, and like he was like the pedestal that you had to live up to if you want to be a main event guy. If once you were wrestling Taker, you beat Taker, that put you on the next level. And like you said, he wasn't always in the main events then, but he even almost got to a level at one point where like he didn't need the belt. Like beating Taker was like winning a belt almost. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Match.
Just crazy. But okay, number 3 is the first wrestler so far, I think, on the list. I'm going to give a 10 out of 10 in ring. I've never seen, again, and this is somebody that you appreciate over time, like we talked about. I've never seen someone work in the ring and perform the moves so perfectly. I know you're shaking your head. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm talking about Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yes.
Unbelievable in-ring general. My goodness, every move he does is so perfect, and you can just see how perfect it is and how his opponent is protected. We're talking about a 5-time WWE champion, a 2-time Intercontinental champion. What else? A 2-time tag champion. King of the Ring, 91, 93. I got it written down here. Royal Rumble, 94 with Lex Luger. What the fuck was that all about? He's a 2-time Hall of Famer. Unbelievable. His matches with Roddy Piper, Mr. Perfect, with the British Bulldog, with Shawn Michaels, with Owen, The Undertaker, my favorite match of all time, him WrestleMania 13 with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Unbelievable. And I think people forget how good his fucking heel run was in 97.
Oh my God, yeah.
Man, Bret Hart really set in stone the movements to that Attitude Era. I think we forget about that. And just look at this. If all the stones were aligned and Bret stayed in WWE, we probably never would have seen the Stone Cold Era. We might we don't know what would have happened at that point. I don't know. It's crazy. Imagine if Bret would have stayed and didn't leave.
Honestly, like Austin got the company to levels of popularity that could never get to with Bret as the main guy.
No, I know.
Pure wrestling fan, I might sacrifice that to get more quality main event WWE Bret Hart matches. Like that, like in my opinion, he might be the greatest in-ring worker ever. Like of all territories, all time. Like he would be my de facto number 1 for in-ring work.
And
like you said, no one's been more flawless ever. No one's ever been more flawless of a worker than Bret Hart.
And no one does the sharpshooter like Bret Hart. Sting's is fucking terrible. The Rock's is awful, especially when he came back against John Cena. I don't even know why he attempted to do that.
Yeah, I don't even count The Rock's. The Rock has no idea how to do that move.
But yeah, Bret Hart. And if anyone's out there, Steven Richards has a podcast where he breaks down moves individual in slow motion and gives a good wrestler's intake. And he has a great Bret Hart one right now because he's just perfect. Everything is perfect. The way he even headbutts people's back and he blows his cheeks out, and everything looks unbelievable.
He does all the little things.
I gotta admit, I didn't appreciate Bret Hart's game when I was growing up because it was a technical wrestler, and I wanted to see the sports entertainment aspect of wrestling. And growing up and then rewatching the cage match with Owen and the match at SummerSlam with British Bulldog and his matches with Piper and even his tag matches, his intensity, everything is back then is amazing from a guy that started off as a fucking referee to becoming the greatest in-ring worker we've ever seen. The best there was, the best there is, and best there ever will be. Hogan didn't come up with that. Don't believe that shit.
Don't
That's
believe
Bret
anything
Hart.
Hogan says.
That's Bret Hart to a T. Fuck, Bret Hart's fantastic. Again, I'm in ring work. I'm giving him a 10, and on the mic and the stick, I'm gonna give him a 7.5. I find in 96, 97, he did get better when he was a heel. And
Absolutely.
just imagine if the stars aligned again, if we seen the rematch like we were supposed to of Shawn and Bret at WrestleMania. Imagine if, but then we don't get Stone Cold versus Bret. So it's
Yeah.
like it's one of those things, right? So that was actually supposed to be a year-long feud up to WrestleMania 13 after
Right.
WrestleMania 12, and Shawn didn't want to work with him, and then you had all this
Poor Kenny
stuff.
didn't work with him.
And in the contract, again, I would have done what Vince did, but in the contract, Brett actually had creative control, so he actually didn't have to drop the belt to Shawn. And he
Yeah.
didn't want to. But anyways, we're not talking about that. Maybe Diaries of a Wrestling Fan will get into that. But Dan, give me your number 3. I know Bret Hart's
Oh,
somewhere
number
on your
two.
list. Oh, your number 2. Yeah, give me your number 2. I know Hitman's somewhere on your list.
Yeah, I got 2 picks left. You know the Hitman's one of them.
I know the other one too.
He's not number 2. My number 2 is, I think, your number 1. Pretty sure, at least. My number 2 is going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, Stone Cold. I'll let you talk about him because he's coming up on my list too.
Yeah, we won't get into him too much now because we got you basically know my 2 and 1 now. I got Austin here. We'll talk about Austin when he comes up for your number 1. I got Bret Hart. I got Bret Hart at number 1. Bret Hart's my number 1 all the way. Austin, if you ask me different periods of my life, I would say, it's Austin 100%. As I get older, again, just appreciating the in-ring stuff, I got Bret as my number 1. Bret's my guy. Nothing against Austin. I don't want to get too far into Austin because, like I said, we'll talk about him when he comes up on yours. But just to finish with Bret Hart, what could have been? We brought up earlier the match with what could have been the match with Kurt Angle. How great that would have been. See him work more with the fucking Undertaker throughout the years. Get to see him work more with Mick throughout the years. So many great matches we got robbed of because of
Bret and The Rock. We could have got Bret and The Rock.
Yeah. Oh man, that would have been great. The Rock could carry a lot of those promos. Have Bret calling those matches and working around The Rock's athleticism in the ring.
Well, they did work together, but he wasn't The Rock at the time.
No.
So.
Yeah. No. And The Rock would have loved working with Bret because The Rock fucking hated HBK.
Yeah, and Bret loved The Rock. They wanted to kill The Rock, and Bret's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have a great match with him and, kind of put The Rock over. He still went over. I think it was like a no DQ or something like that because they wanted him to beat The Rock and squash him because they were jealous of him.
And Bret, another guy like Undertaker, just a great fucking locker room presence. In WWE, obviously, when he went to WCW, just a bunch of fucking shitheads back there, so he didn't really blend in the same way. But there's a great locker room leader too. All
right, so my number 2. Oh wait, rate Bret Hart.
Oh,
you're rating.
I would agree with you. He's obviously a 10 in ring work. He might be a fucking 11. He's off the scale in ring.
Yeah.
Promo, I give him you said 7.5. I won't give him a 7.5 just because I think I said that initially with Booker. I can't give him as much love as Booker on the stick. I'll give him a 6.5.
Yeah, that's good. My number 2 here, since we're winding down, is someone that's also been talked about. I'm not going to get too much in it, but it's the jabroni beating, pie eating, and how about raisin, people's champ, The Rock. I love The Rock, man. Growing up, him and Stone Cold were my absolute favorites. I don't think they will ever change out of my top 10. I know growing up, like you said, you start to look at The Rock's wrestling matches and you're like, wow, they're not that great of wrestling matches, but it's just the character, the charisma, he can hold the crowd in the palm of his hand at any given second.
Absolutely.
I love The Rock, man. And again, in ring, I'm going to give The Rock maybe about that 7.5 and on the stick at 10. You know, just fantastic. But you gave your number one, Bret Hart. You already know my number one already. He is my favorite wrestler of all time. He has always been my favorite fucking wrestler of all time. I love this guy to death, man. I'm talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh,
There
yeah.
is nothing better when I was a kid than hearing that fucking glass crack, the eruption of the fucking crowd, the goosebumps on my fucking arm. Man, I cannot say enough things about Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was my hero growing up. I remember watching Mankind come out, and I was hiding. I ran to my dad on the couch and hiding under the blankets with my dad. And then that glass cracked, and I was on the couch fucking jumping and screaming. I love fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know that. I fucking love this motherfucker. I have a tattoo of him on my arm with The Rock, symbolizing the love for both of them. We're talking about a guy that debuted in '95 as the fucking ringmaster,
Ring master.
pretty much done at that point. You know,
Yeah.
they did put the $1 million belt look gorgeous, but it
Pretty
didn't
good.
help him. It didn't help him at anything until he cut that promo at the 1996 King of the Ring, and off went Austin 316. He's a three-time Royal Rumble winner, a six-time WWE champion, a two-time Intercontinental champion, a four-time tag champion. Um, just an unbelievable performance for me. And I find after the neck break, he became more of a brawler. And I think everyone knows that because remember, there was a shift in professional wrestling. It was now that attitude era that we're
Yes.
talking about. So it wasn't about having the greatest match. It was about
No.
being entertainment and really entertaining that masses, that college to 35-year-old, right? Like age group, right?
Yeah.
And when he came back after surgery in 2000 and 2001, I felt like his game got better. He was doing
Yeah.
he was doing the snapback bumps faster, harder. He was a heel, so he was different in the ring. He would work the headlocks a lot better. He was more technical. Um, Man, Stone Cold for me is just top notch. The only regret I have growing up is my dad never took me to a wrestling event to see this guy live. I would have loved to have that experience of that glass cracking. I probably would have cried. Even as a kid, the emotion I would have felt. Even today, if we went to a fucking Raw
Now you heard the
and
glass
then we
shatter?
heard that, there's no way in my mind me and you don't shit our pants or cry. There's
That's
no
so
way.
that's
There's no
so
way.
like printed in my mind that like when I was working like retail, like how people would like drop shit, I'd hear like glass shatter, I'd like look right away, like thinking Austin was gonna walk out of
And it's crazy. My friends know I love Stone Cold so much. Christmas gifts. I've gotten Stone Cold pictures. I got an autograph picture. I got a vest,
the
the Stone
vest.
Cold
Yeah.
vest. And then recently,
No,
my wife bought me the Smoking Skull Championship.
yeah.
So everyone knows I love fucking Stone Cold. He is the most searched guy I search when I'm looking for wrestling matches, even if I don't care if they're good or not. I just love seeing him in the ring. His work with Savio Vega, the feud with The Rock, The Undertaker at SummerSlam '98. I wish the only thing I wish about that match, the table spot, the table actually broke. But
Yeah, yeah.
his feud with Shawn Michaels, even when they came back and they were tag champions, you know what I mean? My favorite match of all time, WrestleMania 13. That image of Stone Cold Steve Austin powering out of the sharpshooter, blood rushing down his face, is one of the greatest moments in professional wrestling
Absolutely.
history. Um, Steve too. We didn't get to see a lot of decent feuds because he was very protective of his character.
Very much so.
And it's true. I can admit it. You know, I
He
love the guy
he
with the
admits it now.
yeah, and it's true. You know, The Rock. I don't even know we didn't bring it up. The Rock versus Hogan. That match is fucking unbelievable. I know. You know, we we wanted to see Stone Cold versus Hogan. You want to see the two hottest stars combined, but we didn't see it. And Stone Cold at the time, he says he regrets it now because he just didn't see the draw to it. But man. I love Stone Cold in ring. Again, if I'm rating not as my favorite wrestler, but in ring, I'm gonna give Stone Cold probably. I'll give him an 8 because when he was stunning Steve, he was actually he could go off the
Yeah.
top rope and stuff too. And I'm gonna give his promos an 8 too. I'm gonna give him an 8 and an 8.
Yeah.
Um, go
That's
ahead,
what I
go ahead.
find funny about Austin. Like, he's definitely not the best worker on our list, and he's definitely not the best promo on either of our lists. And he probably doesn't have even the highest average or ranking between the two of guys on our list.
Yeah,
But just his presence is just beyond almost anybody in wrestling. It's almost he's like a Mike Tyson. He's just one of those guys where you saw him and it's like this guy could kick fucking anybody's ass. You know the things you know what you're watching is a work, but still it just comes across like this guy could beat anybody's ass. We could send this guy over to a war zone and he'd be like fucking Rambo taking out the
yeah.
enemy. Like,
And
uh,
that feud to WrestleMania 17 with him and The Rock,
oh
he took Limp Bizkit my way. Oh my goodness, man. If you're not a professional wrestler and you don't love that kind of shit, my goodness, man. That what a
yeah,
match. They delivered in the Houston Astros, 67,000 strong. The Rock and Austin delivered a fucking masterpiece. Yeah, like again in that 2000, his matches with Kurt Angle, unbelievable. This guy's coming off of 2 neck surgery, knee surgeries. His matches with Taker are
yeah.
fantastic. Like, and we didn't even bring up Vince McMahon, the
Yeah,
greatest heel.
maybe the greatest rivalry. That's what
Yeah,
this company was built on. This shit, basically.
yeah. So we did bring him up in the beginning actually, but it was for something
Oh, we
else.
did.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
guys, my number one with a bullet is Stone Cold Steve Austin. He will always be my number one. I don't give a shit, man. I would, I would fuck, I would pay fucking endless amount of money if he was coming to Toronto. I would fucking be there. I don't give a fuck how much it costs. I would fucking, I have to witness that glass cracking, man. Just, man, I want to hear, my bones would be shaking with that eruption, man. But man,
Hopefully, it happens before you have knee braces.
that's it. But yeah, man. So guys, we gave you our top 10
Yeah,
favorite
good.
WWE.
Let's give
Oh,
them a rundown, a recap, because I feel like
oh, okay.
we went through so quick at the end because we
We
had so
got
many
too
of the
excited.
same guys.
We got too excited about Stone Cold. So my
Yeah,
my top 10 favorite WWE WWF stars, and I want to give a shout out quick the guys that weren't on my list. I want to give a shout out to X Pac. I really loved X Pac stuff, even in the X Factor with Uncle Cracker when he had that fucking theme song. But X Pac is a guy that worked all the talent. The guy
yeah,
was in the NWO and D-Generation X.
yeah.
Like what the fuck, man? And I want to give a shout out to X Pac. The Road Dog is another guy I really love. Ahmed Johnson is another guy I really love. RVD was a guy I really love. Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
Again, Eddie didn't make our list. Triple H didn't make our list. Cena didn't make our list. And Ahmed Johnson was a guy, and Psycho Sid. I really love those guys. But anyways, my top 10, Ken Shamrock, Macho Man, Mick Foley, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, The Undertaker, The Rock. I mean Bret Hart, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Nice, nice. My honorable mentions. These were the couple guys I had in at 10 at one point before I replaced them. I had Roddy Piper. I had Kane.
Yep.
And I had Bad News Brown. I always enjoyed Bad News Brown's
You know what I
promos.
loved too early on? I was thinking too Christian. Where my peeps
Yeah,
at, bro? But I only liked Captain Charisma. I didn't
yeah,
like fucking ECW.
dude.
Fucking
When he turned on when he was heel against Jericho and Trish Stratus turned on Jericho for him as a
yeah.
kid, that like broke my heart. It just ruined me. He became the main heel to me at that moment. But anyways, get back to my time. So number 10, Gunther. Number 9, Booker T. Number 8, Shawn Michaels. Number 7, The Rock. Number 6, CM Punk. Number 5, Mick Foley. Number 4, Kurt Angle. Number 3, The Undertaker. Number 2, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And number 1, Bret the Hitman Hart.
both great lists, both our favorite wrestlers. We're not doing the top 10 of all time because the list would have been totally different.
Yeah, but
We just
we
did,
we hit a lot of the best
we
guys.
did.
I mean, there's a couple guys missing, but we definitely hit a lot of their greatest talent too.
Yeah, so guys, hope you enjoyed our list of our favorite WWE, WWF stars that we appreciated growing up and we liked. Dan, what are we doing next week when we come back live?
Ooh, it's tough. We discussed a few things. I don't remember, to be honest.
I
What
think
are
we're
you
going to
thinking?
come to you guys next week with a different episode when we're going to talk about top 10 dream matches. And this can come
Oh,
across,
right.
this is about anything. It could be video game scenarios, sports scenarios, wrestling scenarios, whatever
Comic book,
have you. What's,
comic book
yeah,
scenarios.
comic books, whatever have you. So that's what we're going to come with next time.
Yeah.
All right,
So to
guys. Always, Dan's gonna send us home with a "If you smell."
Wait, before I send them
Oh,
home, I got to give a shout out. I got to give a shout out to my guys. It's week one of our second season of our podcast, and it's week one of the NFL season. And let's go Detroit, baby! Fucking win over the Super Bowl champions in week one. That's what I'm fucking talking about. You see me repping the 313 every week here on this podcast. That's
that's
what I'm
it.
talking about. This is the season, baby. This is the fucking season.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week with a special episode. And guys, below, please put your top 10 favorite wrestlers that you enjoyed growing up. It doesn't matter if they're low card, it doesn't matter if they're a jobber, mid card, whoever you enjoyed in the ring. There's no right or wrong answer. It's professional wrestling. So, guys, like always, we will be live next week.
Yeah. Till next time, guys. And bye,
Later.
David.